Welcome to the Tech Panel.
1, 2, 3, 4.
The podcast where tech minds meet.
Oh hey, before we get started today, don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell. Welcome back to the Tech Panel, the show where we sit down with the people building real solutions for messy, broken industries.
Today, we're talking about insurance and compliance, a sector where 88 million general insurance policies are written every year in Australia alone, and where 2.8 billion in claims are denied annually.
It's a space full of friction, fine print, and frustrated customers, and that's exactly where today's guests are focused.
Joining me are Andrew and Simon, the co-founders of PolicyCheck, a RegTech startup using AI to bring visibility and simplicity to insurance policy compliance. They're helping brokers better manage risk, ensure policy accuracy, and reduce the friction between businesses and insurances. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Why don't you take a minute to just sort of introduce yourselves and tell us a bit about who you are and what it is that you do.
Yeah, awesome. PolicyCheck is a generative AI platform for commercial insurance brokers. We are very much looking to empower insurance brokers with the ability to kind of provide a much better service for us as policyholders when it comes to understanding our insurance in terms of what we're covered for, and probably more importantly, what we're not covered for.
And do you offer this service to average Joes, or is this mostly aimed at the actual policy providers?
Yeah, so it's a B2B SaaS software solution for insurance brokers to use to help with their clients. Okay. There is a client experience, obviously, but our customers are insurance brokers.
And did you always think this is where you were going to end up in life, or was this something that was always a passion project for you, or did you sort of just land on this? How did you end up here?
I don't know, Chloe. We've at least from my personal perspective, obviously being bitten by an insurance claim not going through, and very much taking a lot of the learnings and experience that we've both had in the tech space, in mortgages and brokerage. And we put the two and two together, and here we are.
I think
look, ultimately the PolicyCheck, while it's a B2B platform, I would say my passion, having been a mortgage broker like a century ago, and dealt with a lot of consumers who are looking for mortgages and all sorts of financial services products. The passion is really about providing transparency, information, and the ability for people to actually understand the financial services that they pay a lot of money for. So the passion is in the consumer, albeit the pathway to that in this particular circumstance and in my past is with the distributors of those products, which is insurance brokers, mortgage brokers, etc.
So are you guys the first of your kind that's doing this? Is PolicyCheck the first of its kind as a SaaS platform that is making these steps to, whilst look out for the consumer, it is, as you mentioned, the direct route is B2B. Are you guys the first of the likes of this?
I don't think we're the first. There's a number of platforms in the market that are looking to provide solutions for insurance brokers to serve their customers. But we would like to think we're either the first or at the very pointy end of applying generative AI to make that service more efficient, more transparent, more informative, etc.
Okay, so something that we've got a little bit unique at the moment. So we've got the two founders on with us, which we normally haven't had before. So we've got Simon, you like with your sort of the tech background and whatnot, and then Andrew, you've got that finance background. So you've brought this, beautiful sort of way of bringing things together, I guess, to explain to other, like our viewers and listeners, exactly both sides of how this is working. So how did you find each other and work out that this is going to work? This is great. This is how we're going to go forward from here.
Well, I mean,
how'd you find me, Simon?
well, let's
Little bit
just say,
rough.
let's just say that insurance. There's a reason there's a lot more fintechs out there than insurtech.
Mm-hmm.
Fintech is hard, but insurtech is harder, and there's various reasons for that. And when you're looking to take a great product to market in an industry which has challenges and obstacles from the outset, you look to people that have done similar things before, and I guess I can come up with the a great product and drive that with the help of Chloe and others, but largely when you look at examples where tech companies have been able to break into a market or a segment where they're it's tightly controlled.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't think of someone better than Chloe, and so very much that's how the partnership was formed, on the basis of you can have the best product in the market, but if you don't understand the market, if you don't understand the dynamics and the challenges, and you haven't done it before, in the brokerage space, what are your chances of success? And so I think it's a great combination from that perspective.
All right, now let's get the flip side of that. What are your thoughts on Simon?
Look, I founded a number of startups previously, and while I've had some great successes, I think the experience that I probably bring best, and probably Simon identified, is that I've had a failure as well in a startup. And while I've had successful businesses before, and sometimes you just don't know how much of that success is luck. And when you go through a failure, you actually tend to look back a lot more, and you tend to break down the pathway to what was in that case an unfortunate outcome. Whereas success, you don't actually tend to do that. You just you're basking in your glory. And Simon and I met while we were closing down my previous business, and I think you probably saw how I handled that, and the experience that was able to that I was able to pick up through that process. We hit it off as humans, and then we came together when Simon identified the problem that PolicyCheck is built to solve, and we just gelled really well, off the back of tech knowledge and innovation and hard work, and probably my experience as someone who's seen both sides of the coin and what that can bring to a business.
I love how you said, and I refer to this in exactly the same manner, that you hit it off as humans, because I think sometimes a lot of people are like, oh, this person's got ABC and this person's got XYZ, and that's just going to work. But it's not always like that in business, is it? Like, it doesn't always have that gel. So I love that you've brought that up. So from there, what is one simple innovation in compliance tech that you think could redefine how businesses manage risks in the next decade? Yet most companies probably aren't quite ready for that yet.
You want to go first, Chloe, or you want me to jump in?
You jump in, and I'll hit the home run at the end.
Should we refer to you two by your nicknames? I feel like we're being formal, and you two are like, just Aussie guys. Like,
look, everyone calls me Cluey.
Cluey?
So
okay.
Feel free to call me Cluey.
All right.
We had a nickname.
Because I've been listening to them. Have you not been?
Cluey?
Yeah.
There you go. Look, I don't have a nickname. You can make one up for me. I'd be happy with that. But
Okay.
you know, everyone just calls me Simon.
All right, shoot.
Hey, look, I mean, we're obviously an AI company, and we're all about what AI can do for compliance. But if we take it a step back, particularly from a regulatory compliance, like why do we have compliance? And I think that's interesting, right? Because if you think about it, in a way, the heavy-handed, regulated industries are the industries where there is little competition. And, so the more competition, what we find, I think, generally speaking, is, more standards and less regulation. And so, I think, at a very macro level, AI is going to come in and add a ton of competition. And that competition is going to drive, hopefully, drive more standardization across the industry. Folks are going to have to start collaborating and working with each other. And, we can hopefully rely less on, the regulators kind of push for comply to this process, because the standards will get better and better, and the regulator won't have to jump in. And so I think at a macro level, AI is going to have a big impact, across multiple industries when that question of compliance comes in. But there's obviously, a micro view as well, when we get down to insurance brokers and insurance, and we can talk about that as well.
Got it. And what made you believe that this was a space worth investing in? Like, did you identify a gap in your experience, or was this more led off the back of I think you said you had a poor experience, Simon. What drove you to actually make the jump into actually creating a business and going to market with a solution?
Look, one of the things for me was, I was in the mortgage broking industry in Australia for, probably the best part of 15 years, and then post that as a technology provider into the mortgage broking sector. And one of the things I saw through that journey, particularly post the global financial crisis in around 2008, was, yes, compliance and regulation became a big part of being a broker in a particular market. And but the compliance, what it was essentially designed to do was to ensure that customers at the end of the day were better informed about the products that they were buying. So it was tackled with technology to actually solve the administrative burden of adhering to those compliance requirements. And what I saw through the journey of mortgage broking from probably 2010 through to current day is that the tools that were heavily invested and put into the hands of mortgage brokers. One, they provided a better experience for the customer. Two, they made the life of the mortgage broker, I wouldn't say easier, but far more efficient. The end result of that has been that distribution of mortgages in Australia has gone from circa 50% of mortgages in around 2010 being distributed by mortgage brokers to today, when we see 75% of mortgages in Australia are distributed by mortgage brokers on behalf of banks. So the outcome of that has been, a massive uptick in the mortgage broking industry as a result of the adoption and investment in technology. And a much better experience for customers. Otherwise, they wouldn't be using mortgage brokers, at twice the rate they were using them 14 years ago. Mm-hmm. So I saw a market opportunity there. The insurance technology business, from what I can see, and the provision of insurtech products to make a broker's life more efficient and make a customer experience better and more informed, just hadn't been invested in. So we saw the opportunity there to invest and bring, with the I suppose, AI becoming, a tool that was available for developers and businesses across the world. We saw the opportunity there to provide better tech to insurance brokers and provide them with the, better experience and the greater efficiency that we've seen in mortgage brokers and get a greater share of the market.
Okay. And since going full time, is there anything that sort of like caught you off guard about starting this organization that you weren't really prepared for? Did you have high hopes going in and get sort of surprised with any curveballs along the way?
Probably Simon's better to answer that. I haven't had a job for about 25 years. I'm just a serial entrepreneur and just keep having a crack at things until something's successful.
Love that though.
So it's second nature to me.
Mm-hmm.
But Simon, how have you felt it?
It's a journey of exploration, isn't it? And you've got to be willing to kind of do two things, right? Focus on one particular thing, one particular milestone, but let everything else kind of come through. There's all of the potential possibilities and options, and be willing to kind of deeply consider that as well. And some of that has kind of evolved the thinking, that's for sure. And it's hard when you're going down a path, and that sunk cost fallacy comes through. Mm-hmm. Maybe I need to keep going down this path and I'll just get there. Versus, okay, well, yes, we've invested time going, and time is critical with a new venture. We've invested time building out this offering. Do we stay true to the course, or do we pivot at that very, very early stage?
Yep.
And so I thought it would be a lot more straightforward. In summary, not having done this myself before.
Got it. And you've obviously mentioned that PolicyCheck helps businesses deal with insurance companies, but what is the rate of unpaid or rejected claims across the Australian industry in 2023 up until till today?
Yeah, it's terrible. I mean, it's our calculations have it at $2.8 billion in Australia every year are denied.
Every year.
Every year. That's ridiculous. People are losing their businesses, their homes, parts of their home,
mm-hmm.
And health opportunities because, at the end of the day, the policyholder thought they were coming for something, and they weren't, and that kind of boils our blood. It boils my blood that way.
Yeah, we chatted before this interview, Simon and myself, and my mind was blown at that figure annually, every year.
It's a little bit depressing,
isn't it? Isn't it? And I think we sort of cover the same ground on how passionate we were just in our disgust for that. I have a history of working within the insurance claims segment. So, and whilst it was a long time ago, I dare say that not much has changed in regards to their mindset on how things are actually assessed.
Yep.
And it's appalling. It really is appalling. And even having that background, I was still mind blown at that figure.
Yep.
Of rejected claims on an annual basis.
Yeah, I mean, life insurance claims are a lot, they're a lot more black and white and on the personal side, but in the general insurance, it is much higher than you might have expected. And so, a number of people have tried to solve this in the past for different things. Like for there's always a new idea that's kind of come to market. And what we've seen over the last 10 years is people produce these great widgets. These great small, sort of maybe a better policy comparison kind of tool, or maybe a better data capture tool.
Yeah.
Maybe it's whatnot. But no one's actually looked at solving this particular problem. Everyone's kind of hoping that the industry will do better with incremental innovation, but nobody's actually looked at let's look at the process that we go through when buying insurance and understanding insurance, and work with brokers to fix that.
I'm a little bit curious here, though.
Yeah, and look for me in that context, like $2.8 billion worth of denied claims is is a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
And look, I look at that and I don't necessarily don't put any blame really on the insurance companies, although there are cases when that is when that is relevant. But what I look at is that making a claim on an insurance policy isn't a trivial thing to do. It takes a lot of effort. You've got to put a lot of information together, and no one likes filling out forms. Mm-hmm. But the sad part for me is the majority of those people actually thought they were covered. So what that tells me is they didn't understand their insurance policy, or they didn't understand the aspects of their insurance policy that at the end of the day they were paying for. And that is, am I paying to cover this event or cover this risk? While compliance has been great over the decades, what compliance has tended to do is make insurance policy documents, mortgage documents, financial services advice documents, etc., so big and so cumbersome that the general consumer can't understand them. And in many cases doesn't even bother reading them because they know they can't understand them. So they go away with their own interpretation. What we're seeking to solve is to clarify what you are actually paying for. And most importantly, to be able to provide people with the information of where their risk lies. In other words, what they aren't covered for, where their exposure is. And empower brokers to do that.
Does the system assist? I understand the fact that you can say we assist with helping you understand where the risk lies with you as a customer, but what exactly does the system do on a fundamental level for me? Like if I were an owner of your system, I potentially have a claim that I want to be lodging. I understand that these things are not covered, but for the things that are covered, I still feel like this is the gray area where people come unstuck, right? I think I'm covered for this thing. It says I'm covered for that thing. But then you put a claim in and it's like, surprise, not in this case. Like, how does the system solve for that issue? Or is that something that's involved in this scenario?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to say for insurance precedent, right? So has there been a similar claim on a similar policy before, and what was the rule, right? And so, a lot of that kind of happens, right? And so, but what we're seeing increasingly, probably over the last 5 years, is sometimes the regulators now stepping in and saying, that's not good enough. You've for whatever reason, the customer, made the assumption, or the broker made the assumption that something was to be covered, and you've led, the market has led to believe that that's covered and that should be covered, and you've got to pay out. And so, that kind of trend is starting to increase because the regulator's stepping in and saying, look, yes, insurance precedent, has been working, but the market's understanding of those policies, isn't in sync. And so, when we actually look to provide brokers and clients confidence, we can look at the claims data, and we can actually say, based on, this many people with this particular claim, this particular policy, the likelihood of you getting paid out in this particular circumstance is X or Y. And so, but we can't be definitive, with that, but we can definitely, take steps to help build confidence for the broker and the policyholder that at the end of the day, that their claim is going to be accepted.
Don't we all find this very strange that we can agree that something is covered, but you're telling us this is the percentage rate or probability that we think you're actually going to get paid out? Why is there a probability rate against something? I don't understand what the confusion
Have you seen how many terms and conditions are in a PDS? I mean, there's 67 providers of home insurance in Australia.
Yeah.
The terms and conditions for each one of those PDS is different.
Mm-hmm. But let's say we do have the terms and conditions, and the system assists us with evaluating whether or not we get a claim. why is there still a probability associated with it?
It's because it's not black and white, right? I mean, it needs to be interpreted by a lawyer in some cases. So you might be thinking of the simple things that are, the residential kind of home insurance or car insurance where we use standard terminology. But as soon as you start getting into, the more complex, policy documents, sometimes that have even been negotiated directly with the insurer, they're legal contracts, and sometimes it's not black and it's not exactly black and white, right? Yep. Because of all of that variability in how we define things. Mm-hmm. And you probably need to talk to a lawyer for a better answer on that than beyond that.
I get it.
Yeah, and look, at the end of the day, with most, and this has been my personal experience with a claim quite some years ago, but there is typically a human assessor who is determining. It's not a document who's determining whether this claim is relevant or not. Like the human assessor can, in the case of damage of some kind within a home, that assessor will make their own judgment as to how much of that is wear and tear because the property is X years old, and how much of it was actually caused by the event that's being claimed against. So all what we can do is interpret the documents and the legal structure of them as best we can, and identify where those risks lay. But at the end of the day, with insurance, there is still a human that makes the assessment on the damage and how it relates to a particular event you're claiming for.
Yeah, that's right. I know, like, having done those assessments myself, it very much, it's what I had in front of me versus what, say, the policy covered, what an exclusion list was. And you would, in my situation, and I worked for quite a good insurance company in regards to it was quite black and white in how we did things. But if anything remotely looked like it was going to be within that exclusion list, you would investigate it further and see if you could find for it to be within that exclusion list.
So what do we focus on right now as an organization? Is there anything in PolicyCheck's platform that is expected to be a pretty big change from the consumer's perspective? What's next on the horizon for you?
Well, the first step for we're currently launching our beta for brokers, very much a productivity kind of improvement, right? If you think about where insurance brokers are spending their time today, categorically, 90% of their time's on admin. So if we could use AI, given all of the the documents that Chloe was referring to and all of the compliance and the questions here that we've been chatting about, we can use AI to speed up the productivity that's going to free up brokers to spend more time with clients. And there's a number of things that we're doing to kind of on that productivity kind of track, but then we'd love to kind of get closer towards our mission of helping everyone better understand their policy by, providing some of that digital experience to the policyholder or the client, and really beefing up the offering for brokers beyond that productivity kind of starting point.
And when you say it's all admin work that's taking up their time, do you just mean, like Jamie was alluding to a minute ago, looking at the document, checking the inclusions and exclusions, making a decision? Is that the part that's burning up all of their time? Like, what exactly is taking away from energy and resources that can be directed towards other things that are more valuable?
Yeah, there's a whole heap of the policy comparison is one part, the data capture is another, but the grunt work is very much in preparing all of the necessary documentation and the back and forth on that. There's multiple parties as well, right? It's not just the policyholder, you've got to be interacting with the insurer, you've got to be interacting with the, in some cases, the premium funder, in some cases, the list, sometimes there's an agent involved. And so the amount of stuff that needs to happen. And today, many insurance brokers have cobbled together different widgets and different tools to kind of run through that process. And so it does create everything from the fat fingering all the way through to, errors and omissions, because, there's just so much data and information needs to be managed as part of the quoting process, particularly if you're looking at, are you managing a client over many years and you've got many years of data, and there's a claim that comes in, or you've got a kind of build off last year's policy and insights and whatnot. So lots of data to process, and brokers just don't have the right tools to do that. So productivity is the focus, the first focus.
I've got to imagine, I'm hoping at least, I could be wrong here. Do either of you actually have access to the types of claims that come through these brokers' doors?
There's a high volume of them, that's for sure.
I guess I'm wondering, do you have any like interesting stories from the war front?
Nothing that comes to the top of my mind.
I can only imagine the crazy things that
it's actually
get
funny.
submitted.
We were speaking to an investor recently about the problem we were trying to solve, and it cut through with her instantly, because her husband had a business and had recently had an event within that business and had a claim which wasn't for a trivial amount. It was for $2 million, only to find out that they weren't covered. And speaking to their insurance broker had thought that they were covered.
Oh, God.
And you can imagine in any business, no matter how large, $2 million that you're expecting to recover and your broker was expecting to recover is significant. So we certainly got instant cut through with that investor.
Yeah.
And are you recognizing any trends from the consumer end around the types of services that are not being procured that are opening them up to significantly more risk than they should be?
So insurance brokers themselves or the clients?
Or the clients.
I mean, look at the OECD index for insurance and look at where we rank versus, where Australia ranks, where New Zealand ranks. I haven't got the numbers, can't remember the exact numbers, but we could be doing a lot better. And I think that, with the lack of trust and the lack of confidence that we do have in our market in terms of insurance, particularly small businesses, there's a significant amount of underinsurance. And I don't have the numbers on whether that's trending up or trending down. But
Just
that's
trying to look for you here.
That's definitely something that we're hoping to kind of promote, in terms of if we can have more confidence in brokers and insurance, we can actually probably get a better coverage ratio, and have that a better kind of less declines as well. But
I think the most recent example of consumers being affected by decisions of insurance companies or risk that maybe insurers are exposed to and have to protect themselves against is the Los Angeles fires, where suddenly there were people that area was identified as a risk, and a lot of those people ended up being not covered for insurance within those fires. Now, while there was nothing we could do about that at the time, and it's a tragedy for many of those people, we would like to think that if our product had been, in market at scale, that those brokers who are serving those customers could have had the tools available to them to be able to offer those customers alternatives, or maybe more readily identify that they were exposed. We're not sure exactly how that would have played out, but I think the outcome of it is that customers who are aware of that situation are now seeking more information and seeking a better understanding of, where they have their exposure as far as the insurance they're paying for.
But it's interesting how, and so often happens in all different sort of business industries and whatever it is, we sort of find that human nature sort of just plugs along with like, oh, okay, so we all know insurance is quite grey, to say the least. But when a big disaster happens, and I'm not saying PolicyCheck in regards to this, I'm just saying the public in general, the interest peaks because the LA fires, and it was worldwide news how destitute these victims were and how they weren't covered, and all of these, exclusions were coming out that they had no idea about. So I guess on the back of that, and the fact that you guys were clearly in a process of ramping up PolicyCheck and stuff like that, that from that disaster, hopefully something very, very good comes out of it in regards to the insurance industries and being just more transparent maybe. And then you can help within that process.
Yeah, the first, if we did the research and we looked at government websites and whatnot just across Australia and New Zealand, and there's many of them that produce a warning. There's a flood coming or there's something coming, state level, federal level, they put out this communication, hey, just be warned, there's they're predicting some catastrophic events.
Yep.
The first thing on that list is, in terms of get prepared, is check your insurance.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone reads that and just glosses over it because we don't have the tools or the expertise pre and post an event to kind of have that dialogue. And I think that insurance brokers, they exist there to help us through those points.
Yeah.
And so they're overwhelmed with the admin. So we can free them up instead of, insurance isn't a set and forget product. It's something that, you should be able to interact with an advisor on, and they're just not available.
I'm kind of wondering here, if there was a storm coming and it's supposed to be here in a week's time, is there something that you and I can do to just change our policy? I thought there was a lot of red tape that said you're not covered for 90
the warning's
days.
There, check your insurance, but
you're not covered.
We've had the cyclone come through here on the Queensland coast, and it's it's too late at this point.
Yeah,
is it
exactly
too late
right.
at this point? Can we do? Because to me that would be it's a force of nature, or it's going to be it's something. It's not pre-existing, but you're getting where I'm coming from. I can't stop the cyclone, and insurance isn't going to say, oh, you know what, you're right. You are going to get flooded, or the possibility of your, dwelling is going to be partially or fully destroyed. We're going to cover you now that we know it's coming. I feel like insurance companies would just be like, sorry.
You should have purchased it 12 months ago.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know the definitive answer to that, but I think you've hit the nail on the head. If you're sitting there waiting for the cyclone to hit your house, it's probably not going to get accepted for a new policy.
Yeah.
But at least if you have a tool, or your broker has a tool available that can identify with your particular policy, where your risk lies, what you need to be prepared for the claim that you're ultimately going to have to make, whether it be those photos of the condition of the house before the event happened.
That's a really good
whatever
point.
it might be.
Yeah.
But it's better to be informed than not informed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of it from that way. And that, whilst they're not going to be sure, we'll cover you now just because there's a cyclone coming.
There's so much to do in this space to really help.
Yeah, there is, isn't there? Yeah, you're right. Yeah, there is. Interesting. Okay, so Simon, as you build PolicyCheck's tech, sorry, that was a bit of a mouthful for me. What emerging tools or approaches are you exploring to keep the platform ahead of the curve? And what challenges are you finding you're having to navigate?
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely, AI is both a opportunity and a challenge, right? Because, the accuracy is one thing that we can dive into. But also there's an element of kind of predicting how smart is AI going to get, and how are we leveraging AI? And then I think the third thing is really as a venture and as a business, your valuation really is partially driven by the IP that you can demonstrate, and so in this world of AI, how are you defining, maintaining, building that IP as well? So there's kind of three things that we've been thinking a lot about. But AI accuracy is probably something that we've had to kind of spend a lot of time on, but we've cracked it, and we're ready to go. But it wasn't easy navigating that challenge. And I think globally, the conversation on AI was very accuracy, but you can see that trend is already starting to change.
You spoke a lot about compliance in the conversation so far, and just off the back of that, do you think regulators are keeping up with the speed of change, especially of things like AI and insurance policies and the management of those claims and everything else that's involved in it? Or are you guys just already miles ahead of what the regulatory bodies are trying to take advantage of?
Look, I think it doesn't matter whether it's a regulator or a multinational business. They're all struggling in some way to keep up with the advances in AI and other tech that's available to them. Look, but I would say the positive thing is the regulators, they're not ignoring it. We know that for a fact because, let's say, the regulator in New Zealand, we've spoken to them. They have certain segments within their business that are very focused on, I wouldn't say adopting AI, but understanding it, and understanding, what it can add to the compliance, meeting the compliance obligations that the people they regulate have. I don't think they'll be the leader in it, but we've certainly seen evidence that they're engaging and seeking to understand, and seeing where it can provide benefit to ultimately the end customer of a regulator is the consumer. That's what they're regulating for the consumer to be acquiring or using product in a safer environment. And we've definitely seen the engagement.
Do you believe that the regulatory advisors are opting for providing a seat at the table to companies like yourselves, so they actually have firsthand information on how they should guide the future of the regulatory and compliance industry?
Yes, that's certainly what we've seen. But all regulators are under resourced.
Yeah.
No, I think we all know that. So when I say are they engaging, are we offered, or businesses like us being offered a seat at the table? The answer is yes. Is it within the entire department? No. There might be a regulator that has hundreds of employees, and they might have two people who are designated as the ones who are engaging with the innovations that are going forward in the industry. And that's where you get the seat. Do you get the seat at the table of the CEO of the regulatory body? We haven't seen evidence of that. But we just hope the people internally, the small group of people internally who are tasked with that engagement, have a loud enough voice within the organisations.
Sure. My mind keeps getting drawn back to the previous discussion we were having around the difficulty in managing or interpreting the rules of insurance policies. And I guess where my mind is going is, do you feel on a personal level being compliant is enough for these types of companies, or do you think it should be more geared towards ethical transparency for customers? Right? I wonder if we just create a system in which people are only required to dot the I's and cross the T's, but don't actually like create an avenue for the consumer to really understand things.
That's what's broken about the tech today in insurtech. Every widget out there that does something to help brokers is to, they've sold their software on the basis that it's going to keep the insurance broker compliant.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're aiming to do far more than be compliant. In fact, compliance is baked in. It's part of the system, and you don't even realize it, right? And yes, there's processes and things that you need to do, but there's limited friction when it comes to going about that process, and giving the broker back the time. Again, spend more time with their client, and AI just has changed the game on that. That's for sure.
See, this is where I think it gets really interesting, is creating a system that it creates transparency for us. I think that's where most of us struggle in this whole entire process. When someone tells me, oh, we're a highly compliant company, I just think, yeah, cool, whatever. What does it actually mean for me, though? Like, how is that making my life easier? Like, where does the rubber meet the road for me as the consumer? And it sounds like you're moving in the direction of making this process a lot more transparent. Do you have any examples of what the system does today to make that process a bit more transparent for the businesses that are evaluating policies?
If we take a very simple example, right? We all expect that we give our requirements to an insurance broker, and they go off and source the best deal for us.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes we've got this thing in the back of our head going, they're just telling us the same policy that they sell to everyone else.
Yep.
They haven't really done the options analysis. It's not really tailored. You got this, like, they do a whole heap of things to kind of, and some of them probably do. But PolicyCheck provides the end customer, yourselves, as policyholders, the ability to see options and why a broker has recommended a particular option over other options. And it's giving you a lot more transparency into the work and the expertise of the advisor, without the advisor having to go to the nth degree of time and effort to demonstrate that, right? He or she is able to kind of clearly communicate that I have genuinely looked at the market, compared policies, and genuinely tailored a solution for you. And if we can provide that transparency to clients, the trust or the glue between the broker and the client is going to increase significantly.
See, this is the part I feel like we should have started the conversation on. I feel like this is the part that would really move the needle for people. Like, I would love to know that I didn't just get a quote that everyone else got. I guess I'm always worried, like you said, did anyone even listen to me or understand where I live or the types of risks that I'm experiencing? Like, if I was in the middle of Central Australia, I don't want to have flood protection on my house or something like that. You know what I mean? And I'd love to see somewhere in the evaluation process that, like, we've highlighted this as something that's critical for you. This is the reason why we've removed this. This is why. Like, these are the things that I want to know about, because I think all of us can relate to the fact, like, I'm looking at buying a home right now, and I'm looking at insurance providers, and they're all telling me this is what you need, this is what you need. And I'm like, you all have a different perspective, which I find extremely alarming right now.
Well, the whole industry, you have to remember, is designed to push. Like, if you look at all of the R&D that insurers have put into the market, it's not in manufacturing. I might tell you differently. It's in distribution, because their whole thing is, how do I push my product out in the market?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
As opposed to pull, as opposed to, let's really understand that particular person's needs.
That's a really
document,
good
let's
way of looking at
understand,
it.
Let's think about it, and let's then go and find the right thing in the market for them. And so the whole dynamic is wrong, and we are promoting a pull rather than a push, if that makes sense. Yeah.
So how, as Arvin said, he's going through the insurance headache that it quite often turns into. So what do we just say to our broker? Okay, I want you to go to PolicyCheck and check this for me. Like, can you policy check this? Can you put it through PolicyCheck? How do we do this? How do we are we in control of that to let our broker know to go to PolicyCheck and do that type of thing for us?
Yeah, look, I mean, we're very focused on the beta for what we're launching, but we do have aspirations of you being able to upload your current policy and your current benefit situation and get some feedback from our site, so you can check your policy. And the reality is, it's like it's like looking for a mortgage, right? You'll do some research on your own, but then you will want to engage with a broker.
Yep.
And so at that point, the broker can then actually sit down with you and understand all of those different things. And the reality is that if they're insurance isn't always the only option. And, if they're actually listening to your needs and they're an advisor, they might be able to help you with more than just, just selling you insurance as well, because we're flipping the model on its head. But there's a couple of ideas in there, but largely, yeah, we do want to give everyone the ability to check their policy, and that's why we're called PolicyCheck, and that's what our mission is, for everyone to better understand their policy. But brokers, have the best opportunity to help us with that, in our opinion.
I genuinely feel like I could talk about this all day. I find it so intriguing and so common. Like the problems that PolicyCheck is taking on is a common everyday occurrence for every person that has to deal with insurance. So I guess, Chloe, I'll go on for you. All right?
Yeah.
Looking ahead, all right, let's get into it. So looking ahead, what do you see is the biggest hurdle you're working through to actually scale PolicyCheck? And how do you plan to validate the vision with customers and the partners?
Big question.
Yeah, I know. Did I give you enough time to think? You got 5 seconds.
Oh, thanks a lot. Now I've got to remember the question.
Just make it up. Everyone else will forget too.
So looking forward, how do we scale PolicyCheck? Yep. Look, there's several challenges to that. As with any early stage business or even mid-sized business.
Yeah.
Part of it is around the technology aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Which is far more available, because of cloud computing and the availability and everything that exists within there. It's far more available and far more scalable than it was even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So while we can't just put that on the back burner and say, that'll just happen. It's still something you've got to plan for, something that you've got to plan for in the context of not just can this technology scale, but also can we scale it in a way that's privacy safe, information security safe, nothing's unhackable, but reduce the risk of that, etc. That's all the stuff that'll happen in the background. That that we will be tested and have independent advisors and auditors on, etc. to make sure that we can do that without blowing up. But most businesses, the challenge is distribution. And in a SaaS business, we need to get our product in the hands, or at least under the eyeballs of as many brokers and also industry participants, such as the insurers, such as the regulators, etc., as we possibly can. Now, to do that, we need to get visible, not just as, making policies more transparent, but also be visible as a provider in the space.
Yeah.
We need to get out there in the market. We need to engage with the market. We need to, engage with that both on the sales side and also at the, the compliance and the industry body side. But there's a lot of work to do in that. And at the end of the day, look, I see business has, there's two key things that contribute to the success of business.
Yeah.
One is distribution, and the other is execution, and they cover off both of those things I've just covered there. Without distribution, execution's irrelevant. Without execution, distribution will blow up. And they're the things we need to focus on as founders of the business going forward, to be able to make sure we tick the boxes on both of those key components of, successful scaling of an early stage business.
True.
Okay. Well,
like with over 50 million policies being thrown around in the system in Australia and New Zealand every year. Like,
can you say that again?
With over 50 million policies.
Yeah.
Flying around the system every year.
Your system right now.
The market.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Jeez.
I know. Sorry. I was like, what?
That would be good. But I mean, that's the scaling. That's the scaling.
Like, what? You need to scale more?
I know. It's like, I feel like you guys got to the top of the mountain.
Yeah, that would be good. And then, if you have global aspirations, again, I mean, it's, Chloe's points of tech scaling and, security. I mean, it's, PolicyCheck was embedded across Australia and New Zealand. In order for us to deliver that, we need the best engineering and cybersecurity team that we can pull together, and that's what we're doing, because that's what's needed.
True.
It's a big problem.
We always like to end these conversations with a favorite question of ours.
I expect 2 answers here too.
Yeah.
Okay.
One from each of you.
Is there a particular piece of technology that either of you are leveraging right now that you feel is just something you can't live without, or if you run into anyone else you feel they need to hear about?
I better go first. I mean, when you're doing a new venture, the first thing that they say is speak to customers.
Yeah.
And the product guys say go do 5 interviews. That was last year. This year, you can transcribe all of your interviews, and so you can get through a ton more interviews, and actually be able to synthesize that information down with simple, transcript kind of chatbots on your video call. And so we have done far more interviews than we were expecting to do, because technology's enabled us to do that.
Sure.
I love that. That's the first time we've had that, I believe, as an answer.
We're on a roll. We've had 2 bangers so far.
Oh, well, no, we have. All right. Hit us up,
Chloe.
Chloe. Come on. Pressure's on.
Look, there's not one piece of technology that I'm using on a daily basis now that I didn't use maybe 6 months ago. But there is a platform. AI. I'm old, but I like to get into new technology, and I have found myself using every AI platform that I can get my hands on to synthesize information, to research, to probably complete the first 80% of a document that I'm producing before I put my own personal touches to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, Perplexity, ChatGPT, Grok 3,
PolicyCheck.
the list is endless. I don't rely on one because I probably haven't yet got the trust in one.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that I'm doing, I will run through at least 4 different AI platforms to get consistency across what I'm researching, what I'm trying to write, etc. And then I'll move away from those platforms and go back to the old school. Put my own fingers on the keyboard and put my brain into third gear and then put my own human logic and experience across it.
Sure. Would you be surprised to hear that bulk majority of the people that we find that are tech adverse these days are now the younger generation? It's almost all the older people we're talking with right now that are like, I use everything.
Everything possible. I've tapped into, and me too.
I'm blown away by the amount of young people we both find in interviews or employ that are like, I've never used an AI system.
Yeah.
How are you even alive right now?
I know.
Gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Awesome.
I've learned a lot today. I'm especially excited about the fact that there is potential for people to upload their policies. I was actually thinking in my mind, if you just had like a shrubometer or something that says your policymaker or whoever found your broker gave you a horrible policy, he's a shrub, to what a champion. That would be so awesome.
Going like,
a shrub versus
it's in
champion.
the shrub.
Okay.
You can be like, oh, it's in the diamond pit.
Yeah, that's exactly it. This has actually gone into a section of the best worst policies ever advised to a customer.
Oh dear. Thank you so much. I've loved every minute of it. And I hope you guys genuinely, from me, get the best of success. I think it's fantastic.
Awesome. Thank you so much, team. Yeah, awesome.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Absolute
Thank
pleasure,
you.
gentlemen. Cheers.
Okay. See ya.
Megan, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for tuning in to the Tech Panel. If you like what you heard, make sure to subscribe on YouTube and follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn to stay connected. A big thank you to our major sponsor, TraftTrack, for powering today's episode, and join us again on the next episode of the Tech Panel, where tech minds meet.